This video is going to be a film study look at Rashid Shaheed, who of course had a 100-yard kickoff return to really ignite what I think is a special second half by the Seahawks in their Week 14 win over the Falcons down in Atlanta. Look, Sam Darnold throws 3 touchdowns in the second half. Seattle, I think, rushes for over 100 yards just in the third and fourth quarters. Manwari blocked a field goal as well. The 100-yard kick return really, I think, kick-started that whole snowball effect. And on top of that, Shaheed became somewhat interchangeable with JSN at times from a pass route standpoint. I'll give you some thoughts as we kind of go along here during the video about what I think Clint Kubiak was trying to accomplish, the reasons why maybe they were incorporating Shaheed more as a receiving threat on the outside, particularly on clear-out concepts with JSN, but oftentimes they ask those guys to be interchangeable. So first, we'll take a look at the kickoff return. For discussion purposes, I feel like I have to provide some information here. So we'll try to focus on the numbering system that we've got up here above that blue line with the ball in the middle of the field. So you number from inside out on kickoffs normally. So the number 1 is this player here, on out to the number 5. You have the same designation underneath of that blue line, the 5 players to the bottom side of our screen. And I'll generally refer to those guys in that manner from a numerical standpoint. So I think this is a middle return scheme. I'm not a huge fan of this kickoff, to be honest with you. I just really have never been excited by it, but I think this one's worthy of some discussion, so I'm willing to break this down as best I can, and you're welcome to let me know, what I missed at the end of it. In any case, they're going to trap number 1 to the top side. Remember the blue numbering system that I had at the top, and then they're going to double number 1 to the bottom. So the way that they get that done, I'm going to fast forward a little bit here for obvious reasons to when Shaheed catches the football. The way that they're going to get that done is they're going to trap number 1 from the other side. I would consider this a cross block scheme. So as opposed to, let's say, a man scheme where everybody on their side is assigned to block the guy on their side, this is a cross block scheme. So the players on the bottom side of the screen, a couple of them, at least one here, are assigned to block someone on the opposite side. Remember, this is the number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then the fullback or upback, however you want to refer to him, he's assigned to block the number 2 from the bottom side, as illustrated by the orange or brown lines that I showed in the beginning. Along with that, and why I think this is a middle return scheme, even though, the flow of it has the other returner leading, he's supposed to block number 5 down here to the bottom side, in my opinion. Why I think this should be referred to as a middle return, and I haven't, I haven't listened to any explanations about it. Certainly don't know what McDonald said, but basically they are doubling the number 2 to the bottom side. So we're talking about right here, number 1 from the bottom side, excuse me. So we'll track him back a little bit. It's a great block from those two. Keep in mind, it's right here. I wish I had the ability to edit live and kind of track it a little bit better for you. Number 1 from the top side is going to get trapped. Number 2 from the bottom side is going to get blocked by the fullback or the upback. And then number 1 from the bottom side, that's the guy that gets doubled. So basically you're talking about they're utilizing 4 players to get rid of or wipe out those interior 3. I think this is all dependent on Shaheed's speed at getting through that line, getting through the initial surge of the defense, such that the players on the top side of our screen, these guys up here, can't get there in time. And in fact, they are leaving one of those guys completely unblocked on the play. Number 2 gets handled by the upback. There's the trap block that I illustrated 1 from the top side. Again, I've tried to color code this as much as possible. I have to kind of rewind this and use graphics on screen. Hopefully that makes sense to you. In any case, Shaheed's job is to get through here before any of the pursuit from the top side can converge. And this is the player who is unblocked. I think it's number 4 from the top side. That will be the second guy in from the sideline, but normally your count system illustrates from the middle of the field. We're talking about this guy right here. We'll try to track that back a little bit so you can see what I'm talking about. If you've lost track of him or lost bearings, there he is right here. We'll pull this back even a little bit further to the beginning of the play so you can see what I'm talking about here, that he is the number 4. Well, it makes sense, right? If you're trying to block these guys, handle all of them, you've only got 9 potential blockers up front, and then Shaheed with the ball, as well as the other returner, the guy who's leading him, at least to the right side, the flow initially. And so because you've only got 9 to block, and then the 10th being the add-on, doubling someone just mathematically means you're going to leave a player unblocked. And in this case, it's appropriate. I would be interested in maybe going back and looking at the 2 kick returns from the first half. Maybe there was 3. But in any case, and seeing, did they use this scheme previously? Number 1. Number 2, did they hold this for a big situation? Middle returns, in my experience with, regular kickoffs, not this one that the NFL was forced upon us, they're generally contingent upon the returner getting through the first line, or getting through the blocking scheme, faster than an unblocked player can converge. I would be really interested to see what happens this week with that player for the Falcons, who was the number 4, being unblocked, unable to get there in time. Shaheed is gone, and some guys on the Seahawks sideline knew it already. In fact, they knew it, before he even burst through the line. It looks like 3 offensive linemen sitting right there, obviously ready to get on the field. They've already raised their hands, so they knew the scheme, obviously, and they knew with Shaheed's speed, that it was over at this point. Huge moment, if you ask me, because it made up for a sloppy first half offensively and allowed Seattle to take a 13-6 lead. We'll do the same thing from the end zone angle. Again, it's a 100-yard return, and we'll illustrate the numbering system. Here's the unblocked player, the number 4, from the top side, our right-hand side of the screen right now. As Shaheed catches the ball, the trap man is the number 1 on our right, but the top side from Seattle, from the perspective of where Shaheed receives the football. And then the number 2 on the other side is the guy that is going to be handled by the upback/fullback. Here's the double team on the number 1 from the bottom side. You've effectively trapped or kicked out the number 1 from the top. Looks like to me you lose this guy here, number 4, from the bottom side. And the other returner is trying to decide whether he should go block him or not. He realizes that's not the player he's assigned to, in my opinion, so leaves him to go after the unblocked number 5. Shaheed has got a lane obviously developing already, and he's able to get through one tackle. I think it's Arnold Ebiketie. If we track him back right here, he's one of the top side guys. I believe he's number 2. 1, 2, that's Ebiketie right there. And so they're trying to just peel back on him again. The idea is these backside players have got to hold for a moment such that Shaheed can't reverse course all the way across the field. NFL speed is going to kind of negate 95% of those. But the idea is these players aren't going to be able to converge enough such that once Shaheed gets through, I'm calling it a middle return, that really it's pretty much over once he's isolated with the kicker. He's got tremendous burst, obviously. That's why he's back there returning kicks. To me, this little slight move that you have of returning it here is influencing this double, but it's also influencing these players to hold their leverage. And what I mean by that is I think this is all designed by Shaheed hedging in this direction to force these players to stay leveraged towards the sideline, such that when Shaheed brings it back to the middle, the whole middle return scheme works or functions the way that it's drawn up on the whiteboard. Again, I'm not an expert on these kickoffs. I've kind of intentionally ignored the NFL kickoff for the better part of a year and a half because I really don't like the play. And I certainly don't think, I'm not a special teams expert anyway about football. I know someone who is and would probably have some differences of opinion here for me. But in any case, here's the top side number 4 who was unblocked. It's over at this point. Shaheed takes it back to the house. I don't know, what were your thoughts when you saw this happen as a Seahawks fan after going through a difficult first half, and then Shaheed finally gets loose, I think his first touchdown in Seattle, well, technically in Atlanta. I'm interested to see, like I said, the schemes that they used on kick returns in the first half. Was it the same as this one, or was it drastically different? We'll get to some offense film now. Forgive me for spending so much time talking about a special team situation that I'm really not even a fan of anyway, like I said earlier. So, third possession, 2nd and 13, kind of like a speed out. You do have mirrored routes. I'll generally spot shadow Shaheed in yellow and JSN in blue. Really mirrored routes now. I don't think this is matchup based here in this example, Darnold choosing to go to the top side. You can see he's loading up quick to get the ball to Shaheed. I think it has more so something to do with the fact that you're looking at off coverage to Shaheed's side and press by, I think that's Terrell, down on JSN. I don't think it's really matchup based here, in my opinion. I think it's just solely Sam Darnold seeing the off coverage and then Shaheed eating up that space quickly, getting on top of the corner, turning it into, almost like a speed out kind of. On a 2nd and 13, gets close to the first down. Unfortunately, the very next play, which I will cover, even though Shaheed's not on the field, nor is JSN for that matter. So it's a heavy personnel group. You got 2 running backs on the field, 2 actual tailbacks in Walker and Charbonnet. And the concept should be very familiar outside of the running back, the route from Walker. So basically, you got a clear out here, and then the backside, I think, is Arroyo, who's going to be the target on this, is running another over concept. He does do a little bit of a jiggle coming across the field. I'm talking about what occurs right after this moment now. Arroyo, I believe he's matched up against Terrell. He tries to carry Terrell up the field and create some space so he can bring his route all the way across. Look, Sam Darnold's been great at moving to his left. So I get it. The play call has him moving to his left. Walker going out in the flats. Arroyo, I'm going to start to call this the Derek Young route because of that throw that he made earlier in the year. I think it was against the Saints, or maybe it was the Bucs. I could be wrong. I know that it was at home. Rolling to his left down the field, I think like a 38 or a 39-yard gain. It doesn't work out in this case. It's not actually the, quote, Derek Young route. He's thrown it to Arroyo on the over concept all the way across. Really nice job. Again, I think it's by Terrell to tip it, and then this is the corner or the DB who gets the interception. I understand it's 3rd and 1. You want to, get a first down or get an opportunity to get one. Turnovers have been such an issue that, for me, I'm just not sure where I am with this decision. Terrell is a corner who's going to be able to cover Arroyo on that route. You only had 1 yard to go. I don't think that Darnold is going to be able to get it, with his legs. Some would say, maybe you throw the ball out here to Walker, but I see the DB being able to make a play on that. It just looks like to me Atlanta has everything covered, and I think that kind of, bears itself out by the pass that's tipped and then ends up being picked off. Really frustrating film in part of the first half. Fortunately, the defense was able to get a block kick after this turnover. Another turnover on their side of the 50. It was Nick Manwari. As an aside, earlier today I did a film study video on Manwari and Devin Witherspoon, who played amazing as a combo, whether it was nickel or dime defense. I put, I think, 11 plays on there. It's a pretty long video just like this one. So if you haven't checked it out, you can either pause this one now and go check it out right at this moment, or you can wait till the end of this one and then take a look at more Seahawks film study videos that I put out earlier on Monday afternoon. Moving forward, 4th possession. It's a 3-3 tie. This is after the blocked kick by Manwari. And this is a back shoulder throw to Shaheed up at the top side of our screen. So he gets bumped. He gets kind of stabbed, and that takes him off balance. There does seem to be a linkage between Jesse Bates walking up as the safety to the Falcons' left or the top side of our screen and targets for Shaheed in this game, or at least times where Darnold looked in that direction. Darnold briefly does look off or look away. He'll look to the downside here for a moment. The only thing I can figure is, maybe he's checking out this safety to the bottom. I think that might be Watts, but I could be wrong. Back shoulder throw to Shaheed. I don't know that I have seen a ton of back shoulder wins for Shaheed from his time down in New Orleans, but Darnold throwing it to me is a good thing because it means he trusts him, number one. Number two, there's a very real tendency, especially against the Vikings, for teams to open up their safeties and basically hedge to the side of JSN. I think it's possible that part of what we saw on Sunday against the Falcons, Clint Kubiak, Sam Darnold, and the whole offensive structure trying to balance out that equation, if you will. And another thing to talk about, out of all the targets for Shaheed, and some of them were on 3rd downs, I didn't see any negative reaction from JSN at all from a body language standpoint. Same play from the end zone angle. The ball was on the right hash, so Shaheed is into the boundary. And again, you have this boundary side safety. I think it's Jesse Bates walked up. Maybe that influences Darnold here, right, to to take the one-on-one into the boundary for Shaheed. Tight end Barner working his way across. At this point, post-snap, Shaheed has already kind of been, knocked off balance slightly. I will say that Darnold's eyes are interesting here in that he's going to his right. He checks to the right first, then goes back looking to the left really quick. We never know, exactly what these guys are processing. So I'm not willing to say he's, quote, looking defenders off to both sides. There's probably some element to that there. But in any case, we're up here. There's a little bit of a hand fight at the top of the route, for Shaheed. He's unable to get the win, really only unable to get one hand on it. Low percentage play at that point at the end of it, and they're forced to punt. Atlanta takes a 6-3 lead. I'm interested if you know of more back shoulder throws to Shaheed that were successful or demonstrated a higher level of efficiency. I'm not sure that, as talented as he is, that's what I would view as his specialty or something that we would rely on him for against high-level corners when they're in the press alignment. 2 plays here from late in the second quarter, one of which will involve Shaheed. This one will not. This will be Sam Darnold's scramble for, I think, 12 or 13 yards as the ball is snapped. I think it's 22 seconds left in the second quarter. Atlanta's still up 6-3 at this point. Interesting stunt here from these 2 defensive tackles. Basically got a topside rush from Floyd, and then I believe this is Ebiketie trying to run. That may be Walker or Pierce, the other rookie, James Pierce, trying to basically get around first Barner and then the left tackle. So Floyd works to the top side. That kind of causes Darnold to step up. Let me talk about this stunt that's occurring. Zabel's kind of able to redirect here. So the defensive tackles, or defensive line, lined up 3 to one side. So you're talking about edge rusher and 2 D tackles. Edge rusher here, and then inside linebacker. So I'm only going to refer to the defensive linemen. 1, 2, 3 to one side and 1 to the other. So the way that this works is actually kind of creative. This guy works initially to our right-hand side, the right-hand side of the center, and then the other defensive tackle picks the center and just blows him out of the water because he's not expecting it, runs him into the right guard, in fact, and then Zabel is able to redirect, kind of try to stay square and get a little bit of a piece of this guy here. The center is out of the equation completely. That combination, or that pick, along with the edge rush by Floyd, it was a loss by Floyd. Don't get me wrong. Abe Lucas took him out of there, pushed him higher than the pocket. That's what caused Darnold to juke and run, basically not be able to go through his progressions at all, and it worked out well. It gives a little bit of a fake here just to create space, ends up gaining 12 or 13 yards. The big play here, if you ask me, is the very next one, and it's from Shaheed. So it's a 16-yard gain, basically a dig. You get 2 clear-out routes. This is the very next snap, I believe, after that scramble by Darnold. I think this one snapped with, 14 seconds, or maybe it's 12 seconds left. But in any case, the clear-out routes are really, it's Kupp running over the middle, and then JSN, the vertical from the top side. Shaheed's route is contingent upon the middle of the field being open. I would just call it a dig, really. And so what I mean is, this is Kupp's route. Let's rewind this back a little bit. Kupp here, running his route to the middle of the field, and he's got a defender on him, number 20 in man, and then also basically an inside linebacker or second-level defender. That might actually be a safety from a personnel standpoint. And what that does is totally clears out the middle of the field. It's also a one-man rush from Atlanta. So there's no pressure, just too much time for Darnold, and then too much space for Shaheed to run onto. But you've got, I think, an interesting dynamic occurring in that Shaheed and JSN, you consistently see this interchangeable nature on some of the plays that I'm going to show you in this film. And I'm sure other people have talked about it at this point, basically using JSN to get Shaheed open or vice versa. And I think that's an evolution or advancement of the offense that you needed to see, specifically coming out of the Vikings game where they hedged and moved so quickly towards JSN, which is where Sam Darnold typically looked immediately after the snap. Same play from the end zone angle. This is the Mike linebacker, or really I should say second-level defender. I don't think positionally he's a linebacker. He'll be held by Cooper, or occupied I should say, by Cooper Kupp's route in the middle of the field here. And because it's a one-man rush, there's just no opportunity to go get Sam Darnold at all. Easy, really pitch and catch between him and Shaheed. I think this is a JSN route. This dig late over the middle, to me, this is a JSN route that we've seen this year, last year. Different offense, obviously, but it was clutch, man. 16 yards in the middle of the field, gave Seattle an opportunity, I think, take their last time out and then tie it at 6-all. This one will go down, I think, as the second possession of the third quarter, but we all know how the first one ended. It was the 100-yard kickoff return by Shaheed that put the Seattle Seahawks up 13-6 in the first place. So this is a 3rd and 2. Shaheed spot shadowed in yellow at the top. He's going to motion all the way across. So Cooper Kupp's route, I think, is possibly designed just to maybe pick someone, give Darnold another option. JSN late, so these are a right to left read after the motion to the field. When I talk about interchangeability, it's not just the routes, it's the alignment. Recall the earlier third down that I showed you. In fact, 2 of the routes, Shaheed was here as the backside X with the ball on the left hash. The X receiver is generally into the boundary. And JSN was set to the field. Now you've got Shaheed motioning to the field at the snap, basically being stacked with Cooper Kupp, running out into the flats. Easy completion because it's man coverage from the Falcons. Darnold pretty much knew where he was going with the football. When he saw that DB trailing all the way across, wide open, easy completion for Shaheed. Looks smooth, if you ask me, when catching the ball from motion. Cooper Kupp, one of the best at it. JSN, great body control, great hands and eyes. Shaheed as well, on this day at least, looks smooth going in motion and then catching the football. He had 5 targets on the day, 4 catches. JSN got 10 targets. That sounds fine to me from a usage standpoint. At some point soon, Horton will return. I think it's week 16, the Rams game maybe. He could be designated to return. Great group of receivers. No idea what it'll look like for 2026 with those guys, but I love the talent level that they've got there and the fact that it appears as if Kubiak is evolving a little bit or switching up the roles from a snap-to-snap basis in order to keep the defense on its heels. This is more typical to what we've seen so far in 2025. So, like I said, Shaheed is generally spot shadowed in yellow, and he's going to run a clear out concept. It's off of play action, under center play action, in fact, which is like, I would liken it to almost a heavy jab in boxing, and that there's, not a ton of risk in throwing it, but you can really land and set up other blows. In this case, 30 yards is shouldn't probably be considered a jab. I do at times have some questions about Darnold's footwork and where he's drifting at times almost to the play side, but I don't know that DBs or second-level defenders will really notice it from as far back in the secondary as they are. Here's the route by Shaheed. Again, it's a 2-receiver route, the running back releasing late. That's actually been very successful for the Seahawks in 2025. And you can see Shaheed's route is occupying the corner, the outside corner, and the free safety, clearing up all this space for JSN to run onto. We've seen that concept out of JSN pretty much all of 2025. It's 30 yards. The reality is, and this is not meant at a shot at Cooper Kupp, he just doesn't offer the same level of vertical threat to corner safety combo. If you run, it makes me wonder, I'm not definitively saying, but if you run this route with Cooper Kupp, it makes me wonder what type of reaction you get from these safeties. Basically, would they be more willing to leave this corner totally one-on-one and then try to jump some of these over concepts? I'm not saying that would happen 100% of the time, but Shaheed and Horton offer an element to this offense from a vertical standpoint that Cooper Kupp at this point in time does not. Still in the 6th possession into the third quarter. Similar concept here, to be honest with you. The only difference is that Shaheed is in the slot. They're really going to exploit this walked-up safety one more time. So the way that this happens, the safety walks up as a response to the tight end motioning into the backfield. When you get the end zone angle, it'll make a little bit more sense what I'm talking about. So clear out concept up the seam by Shaheed. Kind of a later developing in route from JSN off play action. Real nice job by the tight end, 89, who's technically not lined up at fullback here. Picking up the blitzing inside linebacker. It looked to me like the Falcons blitzed the formation. And then because the inside linebacker was blitzing, my guess is that Bates was responsible for the tight end and man. And since the tight end blocked, he's looking for work. Unfortunately for the Falcons, he can't find JSN quick enough. Darnold knows exactly where to go with the football. Clean pocket to throw from. Great job by the tight end, giving Darnold an opportunity. JSN beats, like I said, I think it's Terrell. Kubiak changing these guys around is, I don't want to say new, but it looks new, at least for this week, from the standpoint of how often it was occurring. This is the same play from the end zone angle. So here's the tight end that I'm talking about. He's going to end up blocking the inside linebacker on a blitz. But first, he's going to motion back into the backfield. And to me, it looks like that's when Bates walks up. Bates walks up when the tight end sets up in the backfield. 55 is going to go on a blitz. It's an 11 personnel group, so one tight end on the field with 3 receivers, but you got two running backs in the backfield because he's lined up as a fullback. So it's a cool setup. I call it spread I, in this case Ram, because the tight end is offset to his right, our left-hand side of the screen. 55, I think, is on auto blitz against this formation. He'll kind of veer to the inside, and so the tight end handles him, actually takes him down completely. I think Bates is responsible for the tight end in a pass release. And so complete KO by 89, really. Bates ends up looking for work. Darnold at the top of his drop, easy pocket, really an easy throw. I will say this, the Bates dynamic, he's a guy that played in Lou Anarumo's defense for a number of years, actually, built his career there. And Lou Anarumo's the defensive coordinator for the Colts. I will tell you, he's one of the guys who I have a ton of respect for across the NFL. From a coordinator standpoint, being able to take away things that you do. He's got his hands full, obviously, this week going up against the Seahawks. JSN now has 9 touchdowns, over 1,400 yards receiving, which, NFL high in that regard. It's also leading the league with 15.3 yards per touch. That's almost as impressive, if not more so, as some of the other stats, 73 or almost 74% completion percentage. I'll be honest with you. I'd like to see this team keep Rashid Shaheed for the future. I don't know what it would cost. The more usage and plays he makes in 2025 could add to the price tag. No matter wherever he ends up or whatever the situation is, it just, to me, gives more options to this offense. And it's great to see Kubiak integrating those guys at the same time. Finally, the last play here that I'll show you, it'll be to Shaheed. It's on a 3rd and 6 in the third quarter. This is during the whole avalanche that Seattle's offense and defense and special teams as well was unleashing on the Falcons. I love this route from Kupp for a lot of reasons. I'll let this flow through first. Basically, the idea for me is that if a flat defender here was to have an insane level of awareness and fall off and try to get under, this route by Shaheed, okay, then Kupp's route is bringing him into that location to take advantage of it. So functionally what's happened here, if you ask me, is we've got a clear out concept from JSN, which frees up Shaheed running all the way across the field, but also it's a high-low option. So really we've got what looks to me to be like a flood concept just emanating from the other side of the field. There's multiple names that you can use for it. I don't like the structure of the Falcons defense, but I'm open-minded about some things at this point, trying to analyze the game. And so I put it down as this is one of the defenses I want to study in the offseason to see if there's more to it than meets the eye for me. I didn't like the structure of their defense in a number of the calls that we saw. They're actually dropping a defensive tackle out here in coverage. Shaheed, makes it look pretty easy. You're just not going to cover him this far all the way across the field, from an off-man alignment. It's almost unfair to ask 21 to match up with him all the way across the field. I like the design, what they're getting accomplished. Easy throw for Sam Darnold, let's be honest. I don't know if you want to call it an easy button or whatever, but it goes down for 33 yards. Rashid Shaheed totally integrated in this offense at this point. Let's show this one more time from the end zone angle, and I'll give you some of my summary thoughts that I kind of haven't covered so far. Like I said, this is a 3rd and 6. I think it maybe should be early fourth quarter. I do know that Atlanta has matched or answered with a field goal to get to within 23-9. Really a weird rush dynamic by Atlanta here. This delayed nature along the left-hand side, and the pick is not accomplished really at all. So Kupp's going to sit his route down really right where that second-level defender is located, and Shaheed running over the top of that, what I would call an over route, climb concept, whatever. Look at all the separation that you've got running across the field. You simply cannot match up with Shaheed or Horton or JSN, running that route all the way across the field. It's a staple of the Kubiak offense. It's been a staple of the Kubiak offenses, for decades. I don't know about you, but the kick return was great. It really got the ball rolling downhill. But the extensive usage as a wide receiver and the targets, it seems clear to me that was very intentional. And I could be wrong here. Maybe Kubiak and or Mike McDonald has answered these questions in a media session already. And if I'm wrong or way off base, then feel free to let me know. This, to me, seems to be an adjustment or a response from defenses like the Vikings, focusing on JSN and or Sam Darnold's face mask or eyes, basically where he's looking. To me, I noticed 3 plays in the course of watching the film. I only showed you one of them, where Darnold looks one way immediately, comes back the other, but then knows where he's going. The football almost returns to his first look, if you will. Now 2 weeks ago, JSN lit up the Titans, right? It was 8 catches, 167 yards, 2 touchdowns. But last week against Minnesota, they were definitely reacting, maybe even overreacting, some would say, to where Darnold was looking and or if he was looking to JSN's side immediately. He only had 2 catches for 4 yards. I think Shaheed brings an element to this offense that Horton did, and Horton will again, right? Long speed. Perhaps Shaheed, as a veteran, is more refined, maybe on third downs. He's been in tougher situations, tougher coverage situations in his career. Both of those guys, tremendous weapons. Really looking forward to seeing both of them on the field at the same time, or both of them dressed and on the sideline, ready to contribute, if you will, not discounting Cooper Kupp and his ability to make plays the rest of the year at all. It's kind of the second week in a row where you've had a slow start to the offense, but check out what Minnesota did to Washington this week. Commanders not having a great year, obviously, but they shut them out in winning 31-0. Multiple violent hits. The Vikings have that ability. You saw that, last week in against Seattle. Nonetheless, Shaheed, the impact that he brings, I think, is obvious. The potential, I should say, 4 catches, 5 targets. Had the big 33-yarder here at the end that I showed you. I think the 16-yard reception on the dig over the middle late in the second quarter was perhaps more important because it paved the way for the last-second field goal to tie it at 6, and then he busts the 100-yard kick return on the, essentially the next snap of the game, probably 30 minutes of real time later on the opening kickoff of the third quarter. The weapons that they have can, in my opinion, help JSN have more efficient big days. I mean, he did have 7 catches on 10 targets for 92 yards and 2 touchdowns. That catch percentage is below his season average, which is 73.6 or 73.8. So unreal efficiency so far. I think Shaheed just increases the opportunities for JSN to be a high efficiency, high volume player at the same time. It shouldn't be a surprise that when Shaheed wasn't integrated, utilized a ton, is the game, the last one, the Vikings, where JSN was kind of shadowed, hedged, double-teamed, leveraged, whatever words you want to apply, go ahead. And then the offense, Kubiak, comes back this week and utilizes Shaheed more often. In the slot, outside, as a clear-out guy, in motion on third downs, back shoulder throw. I think it'll be an interesting game this week coming up. Lou Anarumo, to me, is one of the more intelligent, prepared defensive coordinators that I've had the opportunity or privilege to watch film of, basically from his time in Cincinnati against the Ravens. Have an incredibly high opinion of him, probably higher than what most do. If you were to only focus on the defensive stats for the Colts in 2025, of course, your opinion of Lou Anarumo would be different than mine. I would say that it'll be very interesting next week to see how the Colts react and what they do, if any type of reaction / overreaction to where JSN is and where Sam Darnold looks first. The whole Rashid Shaheed dynamic can balance the offense out. I'd like to see more usage of him moving forward in the regular season, but particularly leading up to the rematch against the Rams. This is exactly what I think you, as a Seahawks fan, and the front office and coaches envisioned when they traded for him. So that's why I did a film study video on it. At this point, I don't know how to produce a piece of content that doesn't get to the 25, 30-minute range. So my apologies if this is too long. If it is, you're probably not listening at this point anyway. If you guys enjoyed the video, please let me know in the comment section, number one. Number two, if you think other Seahawks fans would like to see some of the plays that I broke down, even though I started with the special teams one, probably unpopular, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.